You'll hear people and transform. Thank you so much for joining us. We have some announcements. Well, first, let me say our speaker of the day is the incomparable Marsha Walton. She speaks once a year. We look forward to it every time. When we also wish Reverends Mary Jean and Larry a wonderful anniversary trip in Mexico as they celebrate their anniversary together. And we get the chance to see Marsha speak. So that's awesome. So thank you all for coming. We're excited. I'm Michelle Connolly Brown, and I love and welcome you all. Bless you all. And for announcements, we need Joni Alsop.
Good morning, CSL. How are you all this morning? Yay! Well, we've got a few announcements of some things and opportunities to do around here at our fabulous community. We want to thank you all who have contributed to our parking lot. We are still raising money to finish our final payment, and you can donate in the bookstore with cash, check, credit card, gifts of stock, jewelry. Sorry, getting carried away. Reverend Jody Stevenson, the minister at CSL Boulder, will be a guest speaker and hosting a workshop on the treasures of the Tao on September 4th from 12:45 to 2:45. Please bring a snack to eat between her talk and the workshop. You don't want to miss this. I've heard her before. She's fabulous. You can sign up today in the bookstore. We are going to have another Mary and Larry garage session on Thursday, September 15th at 2 p.m. We invite you to come and share your ideas on how we can make our spiritual home even better. We'll have details in further announcements. But it's a great chance for you to build this community, bring your ideas, how we can welcome others in, make this an even more fabulous place to be. New Member Sunday is coming up on September 18th. If you are called to membership, flyers are in the lobby. We also still need help in the bookstore on the second Sundays for just half an hour, 12 to 12:30. Michelle Brown, our fabulous MC for today, will train you. It's very easy, and we can always use additional hands in the bookstore. Just a few more reminders. We have bracelets for Ukraine in the bookstore. We only have some small sizes now, and all the money goes to Ukraine to help the refugees. A couple of our musicians are performing around town. Want to let you know that try that again. We want to let you know about those opportunities. Tim Mead, who is singing today, is going to be performing at Blue Strawberry this coming Friday, August 26th at 7 o'clock. You can go online to the Blue Strawberry and buy tickets and RSVP and have some more of his fabulous music from today. And our own Bob Baker is going to be having another meeting of his High Vibe Tribe. I believe he told me it was on August 23rd. I forgot my little Post-it note at home. That's this coming Tuesday. So if you go to his website, you can sign up for that. I'm not sure what the time is. So High Vibe Tribe, Bob Baker. If you are here for the first time, please raise your hand. The ushers, welcome, welcome. Great to see you. They have a gift for you if you'll keep your hands up. Anybody else? Tony, there's one in the back. Great. Thank you all.
Can we lower it just a little? My name is Linda Joy, and it'll be my pleasure later to do a laser prayer with you if you have any issues, concerns, or just events. So right now, I know we're always busy, we're always uptight, up this and that, looking at the phone, listening to the news. So right now, let's scrunch our shoulders up and let it go. It's not worth it. And so let us know together that we are one. One heart, one mind, one love, one intelligence, one creativity in and through each and every one of us. I'm grateful to know this, that I am capable, intelligent, and able to speak my word, believing and knowing that the universe will bless me and give me that which I desire. I'm grateful to be a part of this wonderful, wonderful community where I can really see the love and the joy in each and every face, to see the compassion from these walls that we all support. I'm so grateful to Marcia, our ministers, the musicians, for opening us up to higher inspiration and higher good. Knowing we're in this together, let us look at each other with love, with joy, and compassion. Isn't that what we want? So we must be what we want. We must, if we want peace, be that peace. And so I speak my word that there is peace on earth. And yes, let it begin with me. There is so much to be grateful for. And every day, that's my opening prayer. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Not that there aren't challenges, not that there are not struggles, but I want to let them go so they can be solved. I don't want them. I'm going to let the universe guide me and bless me. And for all of us here, let us be that example of love, of joy, of compassion. The world needs us more than ever. So for this, my blessings, and for you, I release my word, knowing that it comes back, and it is so. And together we say, and so it is.
Okay, now we're going to have the thought for the day. Elisa is going to do that for us.
Yes. Good morning. Okay, so the thought of the day. We long for a conscious approach to the infinite. It is as necessary to the nature and the intellect of humankind as food is to the well-being of our physical bodies. Dr. Ernest Holmes. Oh, I didn't see that part. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, and now I would just like to introduce our fabulous music for today. Tim Mead is here. What a treat.
Hello. I'm going to do a song by Jamie Lula, since people here love the Lula Man, and I do too. Something's calling me. Something's calling me. Something's calling me. A little bit deeper than I've ever been before. Feel like I'm walking on marbles. can't still the earth beneath my feet. Okay, here. Wait, where am I? Is my head in the clouds, my naked legs left dangling. I can feel my heart begin to pound. And everybody singing, something's calling me a little bit deeper than I've ever been before. Sing it on. Something's calling me a little bit deeper than I've ever been before. Long like night my soul it wanders, can't still the light that moves me. God is everything and everywhere that I belong. Spirit gently wakes me from my sleep. But something's calling me a little bit deeper than I've ever been before. Something's calling me a little bit deeper than I've ever been before. Oh Lord, oh Lord, take me deeper than I've ever been before. Oh Lord, oh Lord, pull me deeper than I've ever been before. Oh Lord, I know I'm not the only one to live inside these blues. Oh Lord, oh Lord, I surrender my life to you. Oh Lord, oh Lord, I give my life, I give my love to you. 'Cause love is calling me a little bit deeper than I've ever been before. Compassion, compassion's calling me a little bit deeper than I've ever been before. Faith, faith is calling me a little bit deeper than I've ever been before. Peace, peace is calling me a little bit deeper than I've ever been before. God is calling me, and I'm grateful like I've never been before. Thank you. Thank you.
I would just like to take a minute to introduce our guest speaker for today. She's a practitioner here at the Center for Spiritual Living in St. Louis, Marcia Walton. She is a teacher, a mentor, she's a prayer, she's an amazing volunteer, an amazing part of the center, an amazing part of our community at large, and I love her dearly, and I welcome her right now. Let's give her some applause.
Thank you, sweetie. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. How are you this morning? Good, good. I am so happy to be here. Mary Jean invited me, a couple months ago, I guess, to speak, and I was really excited about it. And then I found out that she invited Elizabeth Townsend to speak last week. And then I got a little nervous and scared about it. Wasn't Elizabeth fantastic? Give her a hand. Yeah. What a great job that was. So, but here I am anyway. So it's been a whole year. I think this is the 6th year that I have spoken at the center. And I see a lot of familiar faces, and I see a lot of new faces too, which is really great. It's wonderful to see. So I have this opportunity to talk this morning because our dear reverends, as Michelle mentioned earlier, Reverend Mary Jean and Reverend Larry are in Ajijic, Mexico, celebrating 32 years of wedded bliss. So I thought it would be nice, Jake's going to come up and help me. I thought it would be nice if we all shouted out a big happy anniversary to them. So you're all on camera. Happy anniversary! Yay!
I definitely forgot to switch to this camera before I did that.
Oh, we'll do it again. Okay, hold on. Time out. My talk was only about 14 minutes anyway, so we need to take a little bit of a break. Okay, that was a rehearsal. You did a good job. Let's try it again. A big shout out. Happy anniversary! Yay! Thank you. Thank you. We miss you guys. And they will be back next week, I promise. Yeah. So, today I'm going to talk about a concept that I first heard about a few years ago. How many of you were here when Melissa and Z came to speak and do their magical music? It was so amazing. I happened to be sitting in the front row that day, which I rarely do, sit up front unless I'm doing prayer or something. And, well, Melissa and Z, a little bit about them, they're a ministerial team, and they hail from California, and they do a traveling ministry. They have a van, and they travel around the country going to different centers, CSL, Unity, things like that. And they also have a social media ministry. Well, I'd never heard of them before they came to CSL. And I instantly became an ardent fan of theirs. So one of the ideas that Z talked about was this concept of the 3 faces of God. And I'd never heard of that either. So today, it's really had a big impact on my life and my spiritual practices. So today I'd like to share with you what that is, what are the 3 faces of God, where the concept comes from, why I think it's important, and how you might use it to deepen your own spiritual experience. Because as Tim said in his beautiful music, we're just being called deeper and deeper. That's why we're here, right? Yeah, so first, what are the 3 faces of God? This term was actually coined by Ken Wilber in his book called Introduction to Integral Spirituality. But the concept goes much, much further back than that, back probably to at least the days of Master Jesus. But in order to really understand it, we need to go back to grade school. Because actually we learned about something called the 3 positional perspectives back in grade school days. And we didn't call it that. But we learned that we view life through 3 lenses. There's the I lens, that's the I perspective. There's the you perspective. And there's the it perspective. Everybody's familiar with all those, right? The I am the person who is speaking. This is a personal perspective. The you are the person I am speaking to. That's a relational perspective. We're in relation with one another. And then there's the it, and that is what I am speaking about. That's the objective perspective. Okay, so what's the grammar lesson have to do with spirituality, you might ask? Well, we experience our whole lives through these 3 lenses and these 3 perspectives. But do we experience God that way? Is the question that the 3 faces of God concept brings up. And in his book, Ken Wilber actually applied those concepts to God. He said the personal or the I perspective of God is the God within me. That's the I amness of God, right? We're all familiar with that. It's the inner face of God, if you will. The second person, the you perspective, is God as the other. You, God, the intimate face of God. And the third perspective is the God that is all that is. That is the it out there that Dr. Ernest Holmes talks about, the thing itself, the objective face of God. Now, Wilber asserts, excuse me, that no world religion fully embraces all three faces of God. In fact, many adamantly reject at least one of those faces of God. I mean, people have been mocked, ridiculed, persecuted for saying, I am God, right? Master Jesus is a prime example of that. All religions and philosophies also tend to emphasize one face more than others. Eastern religions tend to focus on the first face of God. Traditional Christian religions tend to focus on the second face of God. And more modern religions tend to focus on the third face of God. So interestingly, Michelle, would you bring me my tea? Thank you. Interestingly, Master Jesus, thank you, is the first person that I'm aware of who fully embraced all three faces of God. Jesus spoke as God, Jesus spoke to God, and Jesus spoke of God, which is really interesting. In addition, in Christianity, the concept of the Trinity was an evolution in the three faces of God. There was the Father, there was the Son, and there was the Holy Ghost or Holy Spirit. But that was still just one step further than that Old Testament version of God as something being out there, kind of that vengeful God. But at least it brought it into a little more personal perspective. And now the concept has shifted from three things, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, to three states of being: the inner God, the intimate God, and the infinite God. So Wilber suggests that when we exclude any one of these faces from our experience, we're cutting ourselves off from the richest possible experience of God that we can have. So let's jump back to Melissa and Z for a minute. You wonder why I'm even talking about this. What caught my attention about their talk? They focused on the second face of God, the intimate face. And it brought tears to my eyes as I sat in that front row. And why, do you ask? Would it make you cry? Well, at the time, I'd been studying and practicing science of mind for about 7 years. And during their talk, I realized that I had abandoned the second face of God. And that was really kind of startling to me. But I'll talk a little bit more about that later. I want to explore the three faces, because maybe I abandoned one, maybe you abandoned another, or haven't totally embraced another. And in order to get Wilber's concept, what I'm offering here today is a way to go deeper into each face of God to enrich your own personal spiritual journey. So we'll start with the third face, the objective face of God. We teach a lot about that in religious science. We spend, the first 3 or 4 weeks of foundations class, the first formal certified class that you take here at CSL. We spend 3 or 4 weeks just talking about the vastness of spirit. We do the ABCs of God. God is abundant, God is bountiful, God is compassionate. We explore all the things that God is. And the first step of spiritual mind treatment is actually recognizing this vastness, this infiniteness, this omniscience, omnipresence, omnipotence of God. That's the third face of God, the objective face of God. We also have a lot of personal experience with the third face of God, because we actually experience this face through our 5 senses. When we see a beautiful sunset, or when we hear a baby crying, or beautiful birds singing, or smell an incredible flower, or feel a slight breeze, tickling us, or even the force of a hurricane wind blowing on us. These sensory experiences that we have actually create an emotional response that connects us to the power and presence of spirit. That response might be awe, It might be powerlessness. It might be wonder. It might be joy or happiness. It might be fear. However, it does connect us. But this perspective is limited to our 5 human senses. In my case, 4 senses, because I lost my sense of smell a few years ago. But how can we possibly, if we're limited to our 5 senses, how can we possibly get our heads around the vastness of God and fully understand what the infiniteness of God is? So one way to do that is to do some contemplation about expanding your understanding and your beliefs about this infinite God. There's a gentleman, Dr. Paul Smith. He wrote a book entitled, Is Your God Big Enough, Close Enough, You Enough? And in it, he talks about the 3 faces of God. But I'm going to stick with the 3rd face for just a minute. In that face, he talks about the importance of expanding our own personal vision of God beyond our limited senses by offering answers to the question, how do you know if your God is big enough? That's a question I invite you to ask yourself. He offers a few answers. You know that your God is big enough if it encompasses everything we know about the universe. That's a big God. You know your God is big enough if you can't wrap your mind around that God, but you can wrap your life around that God. You know your God is big enough if you think it's reasonable to believe in that God enough for your heart to love that God. The heart cannot embrace what the mind rejects. And if your belief is based on intellect alone, then your heart is going to be limited by what your intellect can understand. You know your God is big enough if your imagination soars to new levels when you reflect about God in the healing and the further evolution of the world. So those are just a few of Dr. Smith's suggestions on expanding your perspective on how big is your God. And I invite you to do that to fully embrace the 3rd face of God. So moving on to the 1st face. We also teach a lot about this face in religious science. This is the God as me. This is the inner God. God within me, the I amness. It's the whole basis for our affirmative prayer that we do in the Centers for Spiritual Living. The I am. So it's the unification, right? That's step 2 of spiritual mind treatment. It's the unification of I with God. Dr. Holmes calls it the unification with the thing itself. It's the Christ consciousness that we're searching to find. We know it's in ourselves. We all have it within us. And I think most of us at least have an intellectual understanding of that. We believe that to be true. But you notice I say we have an intellectual understanding or belief in it. Well, what face of God is it? It's the 3rd face of God. So that's not really the 1st face of God. That shifts it. So the key to our spiritual growth and deepening our understanding about this face of God is to truly experience it, to truly embody the 1st face of God. When we're fully aware of the divine presence that's within each and every one of us, we know there's no separation. We know that we are divine love. Now, unfortunately, your 5 senses, which enabled you to wrap your head around and experience the 3rd face of God, can't help you out with the 1st face of God. Can't help. How often have you heard Reverend Larry say, you are not your body, you are not your thoughts, you are not your feelings, you are not your perceptions, you are not your sensations, you are the awareness of them. And when you're in that state of awareness, that pure state of consciousness, there is no time, no space, no senses, no form, no sound. It's just this vast sense of inner spaciousness where you experience like the whole universe as being in you. I've had glimpses of this face of God. How many of you have had glimpses of this face of God? It's a beautiful, beautiful experience. But I'll be honest with you, I've not been able to stay there for a really long, extended period of time. And some people, like mystics and saints, they're born with that. They're born with that knowing of the first face of God. People like Amma, the hugging saint, clearly is that first face of God. And some people have like spontaneous spiritual awakenings to the first face of God. Byron Katie comes to mind, Eckhart Tolle, usually in the midst of some really deep, deep suffering before that spontaneous awakening happens. But it happens, and then they just know. They know that they are it, that everything is within them. For others like me, it takes kind of a pretty disciplined spiritual practice to cultivate that face of God. And it's in spiritual practice, when I'm in meditation, when I'm doing mindfulness practice, that's when I do experience it. So the practice, any practice I can do that distances myself, my ego self, my false self from me, brings me closer to my true self, which is that first face of God. So I encourage you to know that you can prolong your experience. You could all have the experience of the first face of God, but you can also prolong it by dedicating yourself to doing that. It's possible. So that brings us down to the second face of God, you, the one I felt like I had abandoned. As a child, I grew up in the Methodist Church. And this second face of God, the you, this was the God out there. This was the old man in the sky. Have any of you grow up with that? Yeah. This guy was angry. You know, he was kind of like my dad, actually. He judged me. He judged me for my sins. He was controlling. He demanded that I obey, and I get punished if I didn't obey. He was the one who thought I was bad. I was innately bad. And I had to be saved for my sins. And I abandoned that God. And this face of God should be abandoned. That face of God does not exist. But after I listened to Z speak, I realized I threw the baby out with the bathwater. I got rid of that face of God. I got rid of the God out there. I went to the God in here. I focused on that. And I went to the vastness of God. But I didn't have a personal relationship with God anymore. Now, without this second face of God, this intimate God, who do we surrender to? Who are we devoted to? What are we thanking? And I love, Tim, your song because it was talking to God. Lula's song was talking to God. Take me deeper to God, not as God or of God, but to God. This perspective of God is what gives us the possibility of having unconditional love and experiencing unconditional love. This is the God that always loves you, that always comforts you, that guides you and guards you and protects you. This is that God. This is the God that Jesus prayed to. And when he prayed to God, he prayed to Abba. And Abba translates into Papa. He prayed to Papa. It was that intimate. Same thing he called his real dad, Joseph. He prayed to Papa, his human dad, Joseph, not his real dad. So it got me to thinking, how do I reclaim that face of God that I abandoned so many years ago? So whenever I have like a spiritual question or I'm on a search, I go to my Bible, which is the Science of Mind textbook by Dr. Ernest Holmes. So I went to that book, and I searched through the index, and I didn't find anything even remotely related to this concept of talking to God. So I'm thinking, well, how can I give a talk at CSL and not bring Dr. Holmes into it? that'll be offensive. And then, miraculously, in June, I was preparing to teach a class. And I had to go to my bookshelf to get some books. And lo and behold, I stumbled across this book by Dr. Ernest Holmes, Can We Talk to God? Oh my gosh, he wrote a whole book about it. And I'm wondering, can I talk to God? He wrote a whole book about it. What do you know? So, in the first chapter of this wonderful book, I think we have some in the bookstore, he says, and I quote, "In the old order of thought, we talked at God. We felt as though our prayers ascended and they hit the divine ear. And if this were true, they must too often have hit this divine ear with a discordant note." And this was certainly my childhood experience of talking to God. He goes on to say, "In the new idea of life, we are thinking of God as a universal principle, intelligence, and power, as the essence and energy of being." Now here he's talking about that third phase, right? The infinite universal power. He goes on to say, "We are thinking of God, or attempting at least in universal terms, but it is impossible for the finite to grasp the meaning of the infinite," which is exactly why we're trying to expand our concept of God. This is the limited perspective that we're trying to expand. He says, "We are thinking of God as a universal and infinite being, as perfect law, the immutable law of cause and effect, and in doing this, discarding the ancient idea of a huge person in the nature of the deity." That's what I did when I abandoned my relational perspective. "And we are undoubtedly losing something. We are losing the sense of personal contact with this invisible power, and we're liable to think of only God as law, or as an infinite it." And that's where I had come to after 7 years of studying. That's the trapdoor that swallowed me up. He says, and this was the thought for the day, "We long for a conscious approach to the infinite. It is as necessary to the nature and intellect of humankind as food is to the well-being of our physical bodies." So by simply acknowledging that there is something greater than me, the infinite, that I truly am like a drop in the ocean. I'm made up of everything that it is, but I'm not all of it. Then that gives me something that I can merge into, that I can surrender to, that I can talk to, something beyond myself. And while I still practice a lot of affirmative prayer, I'm also learning a new kind of prayer. And I've been working on this for about a year. It's called devotional prayer. Many of you probably, I know some of you do it. I know some of the people on the prayer team do it when they come up here and pray on Sundays. For me, it's a much more joyful, comforting experience. It's where I most feel God's presence and a sense of connection and belonging, not just merging with it, but being with it. And it's not like abdicating my responsibility to co-create as God. I still own that. But it's embracing kind of a new way of looking at it and co-creating with God as my partner. You, God, are partnering with me to create. So in devotional prayer, people often visualize like the most enlightened, loving being that they know of. Might be Amma, Jesus, Buddha. And they invite them in to have a conversation. I read a story about Myrtle Fillmore. Have you heard of her? She was, one of the co-founders of Unity. Well, she was diagnosed with tuberculosis. And once she got her diagnosis, she was actually in a wheelchair bound at the time. She would have people roll her out into the courtyard, pull up a chair beside her, and leave her alone with her God. And she would talk to her God, like he was sitting in the chair with her. And she was healed of tuberculosis, by the way. I've even followed Dr. Paul Smith's suggestion. He says, Just sit down and say to God, God, I'm going to call you Daddy today. Or God, I'm going to call you Papa or Mama or friend. Yeah, and then just talk about what's on my heart. I had a friend, she passed several years ago, Carolyn Baker. When she would do her daily prayer work, she would sit down and close her eyes and visualize taking her laundry basket full of her troubles or her prayers or her wishes for people. And she would go out in the backyard with her laundry basket and she'd have a conversation with God, and she and God would hang her troubles up on a clothesline. Remember those old-fashioned clotheslines? And then she would just leave them out there with God, and let God take care of them. That's a personal relationship with Spirit. Another really fabulous way to embrace the second face of God is to see it in you, to see it in everyone I meet. Dr. Holmes, in a talk that he gave in Long Beach, California, in 1959 said, God is real, personal to you and me, to be communed with. But we shall have to speak to him in each other and embrace him in each other, that the eternal thing itself go forth through us anew into its own creation. So it's in you that I see the second face of God as well. And I thought it would be kind of fun if we all had an opportunity to have that kind of an experience. So I invite you to find a partner. You can stand up or you can sit down. Doesn't matter. Just look at someone. Everybody partner up. And Harold's going to help me out with this. You ready? Okay, here we go. And a little ways through this, I'm going to ring a bell, and I want you to change partners. Okay? Quiet.
You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face
Change partners.
of God. Tu es l'image de Dieu. I hold you in my heart. Tu es l'image de l'amour. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. Tu sei la luce di Dio. I hold you in my heart. Tu sei il volto dell'amore. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of love. You are the face of love. I hold you in my heart. You are my family. You are my family. You are the face of love. The face of love. You are the face of love. The face of love. I hold you in my heart. You in my heart. You are my family. You are my family. You are the face of love. The face of love. You are the face of God.
Okay. How's that experience?
It would have been better if it wasn't so loud.
Hmm?
It would have been a lot better if it wasn't so loud.
Little loud. Okay. So you are the face of God. Yeah. So, in conclusion, take a breath, as Larry says. Wherever you are on your spiritual path, odds are, like me, that you identify more closely with one face of God than the other, or maybe two faces of God out of the three. So my message today is simply to invite you to explore more deeply a face of God that you might not be as familiar with. The inner God, the intimate God, the objective God, and just see how much more richer your spiritual experience can become. Thank you. I love you. Namaste. Namaste. Thank you. Thank you. Would our prosperity receivers please come forward? Hello, beautiful lights. So now's our time to give. We are being given to constantly. And so I'd like to do something a little bit different today with the offering plates. I know many of you, like myself, are automatic givers, and we don't have an opportunity to put anything in the plate every week because we do it on credit card or automatic withdrawal from our checking account. So I'm going to ask you today, prosperity receivers, to pass the plate down each aisle. And I'd like for everybody to put something in the plate. Put love in the plate. Put blessings in the plate. Confer prosperity upon the offering. Just touch it with love. Because your gifts are so important to the world. You give your time, your talent, your treasure, and we just need to bless it all, right? So I know that this offering is a blessing and that it is coming from the heart and the love of every person here. I am grateful for it. I bless it, and I bless each and every one of you. And I let it be, and so it is. So it is. And now, more from Tim Mead.
This is a song that has probably all three perspectives of God in it. And it's one I wrote with Brad Smith called Expansion.
Oh, wow.
Take time to notice. Take time to go within. Love is all around you. Just let it sink and flow right in. Take time for feeling. Heart's love from within. The love that really matters, it's all here within. You can have all you imagine. All freedom, joy, and peace. The future's so bright, no longer live in need. You decide on who to be. You just make the plan and understand, then set it free. Live life with purpose. Connection grows within. You see, the peace is all around you, but it's your heart that lets you see. Take time for living. Take time to find your peace. The love that really matters, it's all here within. You can have all you imagine, all freedom, joy, and peace. The future's so bright, no longer live in need. You decide on who to be. Just make your plan and understand, then set it free. Set it free. Set it free. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for this life that you've given each one of us and all of the bounty that comes along with that. I know you are all that is, and I know that I am a part of you. Every person here is a drop in your ocean. I know this to be the truth. And I know that this personal God, this infinite God, this inner God is all there is. It is the power and presence behind everything that exists, everything that ever was, everything that ever will be. And it is bestowing its abundance upon us right here, right now. I invite you, if there is anything on your heart or anyone on your heart that you believe is ready to be healed, that you just silently speak their names or speak of it, hang it up on the clothesline, and invite this power and presence of Spirit to reveal itself in its wholeness, in its magnificence, in its beauty, in its light. Just allowing that light to dispel anything unlike itself. Because that is the magic of this God. It is with a grateful and joy-filled heart that I say thank you. Thank you for all the blessings. Thank you for all of the people in this room, these dear, beautiful, wonderful lights. Thank you for this Center for Spiritual Living, for Dr. Ernest Holmes, for his teachings, his philosophy, and this way of life that allows us to explore more deeply and learn more clearly the truth of who we are. Magnificent beings of goodness and light and love. So as we go forth today, I will continue to hold each and every one of you in this light. I bless you, and I release my word along with all the goodness in the universe out to that law that always says yes to me. I just let it be there. And as we say together, and so it is. Namaste. What's next? Do we get one more song?
I really never know what I'm going to be playing until I listen and kind of use intuition. Yeah. I'll try to do a little Cat Stevens for you here. Let me tune up real quick. There's the culprit. Now I've been happy lately, thinking about the good things to come, and I believe it could be something good has begun. Now I've been smiling lately, dreaming about the world as one, and I believe it could be someday it's going to come. The peace train sounding louder, ride on the peace train. Come on the peace train, the peace train, holy roller. Everyone look upon the peace train. Come on the peace train. Now get your bags together. Come bring your good friends too, 'cause it's getting nearer. Soon it will all be true. This peace train sounding louder, ride on the peace train. Come on the peace train. This peace train, holy roller. Everyone look upon the peace train. Come on the peace train. Thinking about the world as it is. Why must we go on hating? Why can't we live in bliss? Come and join living, and it's not so far from you, and it's getting nearer. Soon it will all be true. This peace train sounding loud, ride on the peace train. Come on, come on, come on. Just come on, peace train. Yes, it's the peace train. Yeah. Come on, the peace train. Yeah, thank you, thank you. Oh, I've got to bring this train in on time. I think we need a concert. Yeah, you have a concert on the 26th. I'm also with Matt Rowland and Holly and Ashby Laws, and a really great bass player and drummer, so it's going to be quite the treat. And that's the Blue Strawberry. We talked about it earlier, Blue Strawberry. August 26th, yep.